Townsend Hamer rose from humble beginnings in the Mississippi Delta to become one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voices of the civil and voting rights movement, and a leader in the efforts for greater economic opportunities for African Americans. Hamer was born on October 6, 1917, in Montgomery County, Mississippi. Child of sharecroppers Lou, Ella, and James Townsend, she grew up in poverty, and at age 6, Hamer joined her family picking cotton. By age 12, she left school to work. In 1944, she married Perry Hamer, and the couple slaved on the Mississippi plantation because Hamer was the only worker who could read and write. She also served as a plantation timekeeper. In 1961, Hamer received a hysterectomy by a white doctor without her consent while undergoing surgery to remove a uterine tumor. Such forced sterilization of black women as a way to reduce the black population was so widespread, it was dubbed Mississippi appendectomy. Fannie Lou Hamer attended a meeting led by civil rights activists for Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. She became an SNCC organizer, and on August 31, 1962, led 17 volunteers to register to vote at the Indianola, Mississippi courthouse. Denied the right to vote due to an unfair literacy test, the group was harassed on their way home when the police stopped their bus and was fined them $100 for the trumped-up charge that the bus was too yellow. That night, Fannie Lou Hamer was fired for her attempt to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer and several other black women were arrested for sitting in a whites-only bus station restaurant in Winona, Mississippi. At the Winona jailhouse, she and several of the women were brutally beaten, leaving Hamer with lifelong injuries from a blood clot in her eye, kidney damage, and leg damage. Fannie Lou Hamer co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, MFDP, which challenged the local Democratic Party's efforts to block black participation. Hamer and other MFDP members went to the Democratic National Convention that year, arguing to be recognized as the official delegation. When Hamer spoke before the Credentials Committee, calling for mandatory integrated state delegations, President Lyndon Johnson held a televised press conference so she would not get any television airtime. But her speech, with its poignant descriptions of racial prejudice in the South, was televised later. In 1964, Hamer helped organize Freedom Summer, which brought hundreds of college students, black and white, to help with African American voter registration in the segregated South. Frustrated by the political process, Hamer turned to economics as a strategy for greater racial equality. In 1968, she began a pig bank to provide free pigs for black farmers to breed, raise, and slaughter. A year later, she launched the Freedom Farm Cooperative, FFC, buying up land that blacks could own and farm collectively. She purchased 640 acres and launched a coupe store, boutique, and sewing enterprise. She single-handedly ensured that 200 units of low-income housing were built. Many still exist and rule Ville today. The FFC lasted until the mid-1970s. In 1977, Fannie Lou Hamer died of breast cancer at age 59. Fannie Lou Hamer's famous phrase was, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. Thank you.